Hey everybody, and welcome to Real Film Talk, a show about everything from the biggest blockbuster hits to award-winning indie darlings. We like to take a look at today's top films a bit more critically than your average viewer, putting our film studies degrees to the test. I'm your host, Cassie Bauer, and today I am joined by Lucy Severson. Lucy, do you want to take a moment to introduce yourself? Maybe give us an insight. What are you studying? What are you doing on campus?
Yeah, so I'm Lucy, and I'm an English writing major and a film minor. When I graduate, I'm hoping to work in the film industry if possible. I like filmmaking, writing scripts, editing videos, just all that fun stuff.
Yeah, I love it. Maybe give us a plug. You also work for the Winonan, so tell us what you do there.
I am a news reporter and an illustrator for the Winonan, the first illustrator.
Yes.
So that's pretty exciting.
It is very cool. She makes excellent illustrations.
Thank you.
So today we're getting a little bit spooky on this podcast. This week we're talking about a scary murder mystery. It's adapted from Agatha Christie's 1969 novel Halloween Party. This film came out this weekend and is the third Christie adaptation that Kenneth Branagh directed and starred in, following 2017's Murder on the Orient Express and Death on the Nile, which came out in 2022. We, of course, are talking about A Haunting in Venice. So before we get into our deep dive conversation, I want to get a few main takeaways. So Lucy, if you want to start us off, what was your first impressions? What are your main takeaways from the film?
Well, it seemed, very similar to your typical murder mystery. But the thing that I noticed right off the bat was the excellent cinematography.
Yeah.
I was so impressed.
Are you super familiar with Kenneth Branagh's filmography at all?
I have seen both Murder on the Orient Express and Death on the Nile, but I don't know if I've seen anything else.
Okay, you super might have. Let me just give you a few of his directorial credits. He directed the first Thor movie.
Oh, I'm not a Marvel fan.
Ooh, okay.
People are gonna get me for that.
That's really okay.
Okay.
The 2015 Cinderella.
Oh, I did see that.
Yeah. He also directed Belfast, which came out in 2021. It was a big Oscar award buzzy movie.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, Murder on the Orient Express and Death on the Nile. I feel like those are some of his more well-known films.
Okay.
But what I've noticed is that he loves the Dutch angle. So that, or the oblique angle, whatever you want to call it, that's when the shot is kind of slightly off kilter. It's not perfectly level. It's kind of tilted a little bit.
That is definitely something I have noticed with the murder mystery movies he produces. Especially, you can even see in the movie covers. I think most of those are from that angle.
That is a really good point, the posters.
Yeah.
Another thing I feel like I've noticed, and I don't know if this is throughout his whole filmography, but especially in this movie, they had characters really drastically towards one side of the frame, and then let's say this is the frame, and then they're over here but looking this way instead of looking into the bigger part of the frame. They're looking kind of the opposite way of what you'd think.
Oh, just within frames within the movie, or pictures you saw?
No, frames within the film.
Okay.
I don't know. I feel like it just added sort of this uneasiness to the film, both those angles and then putting characters in sort of bottom corners and having them looking towards the shorter end of the frame.
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting point because that was not something I picked up on.
I loved this movie so much.
Oh.
And I don't know why. I just I am going to make it my personality for the next couple weeks.
That's so fair.
I just I love a good murder mystery. They're literally my bread and butter. And I feel this is the perfect time for them because it's
yes.
It's getting colder and Halloween is coming up. And I just feel cozying up with a hot drink and watching a little murder mystery. It just feels so cozy.
Yeah. This is about the time of year I usually watch Clue.
Dude, I love Clue.
Yeah, it's a classic.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, okay, tell me some of your thoughts on that because
Clue.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like it's the perfect movie to watch during the month of October, maybe even September. It I think it definitely is a movie that maybe these movies have points that are inspired by that movie. I feel like it's one of the original great murder mystery movies.
Yeah.
And it's something that directors might look to be like, okay, I want to take this part because this part was really good.
That is a really good point. I feel like Clue almost, like, satirized the genre, and it, like, it pointed out the, like, overused, like, cliches and stuff, but, like, it also, like, became, like, such a staple of the genre because it embraces all of these tropes,
Right.
but it also is, like, subtly poking fun at them, so it's, like, very self-aware, and, like, it knows what it's doing.
Right. That is another thing that I love about that movie, is that it does poke fun at itself. And, you know, movies or genres that have a lot of tropes, like the horror genre with Scream. That's why I love the Scream movies, because they just make fun of all those tropes.
Yeah, I love, like, a good meta narrative that it's like it knows what it's doing. So, like, kind of on that topic, I mean, we brought up Clue. What other, like, films have you seen in this sort of whodunit murder mystery genre?
Well, I am a fan of, oh gosh, there's Glass Onion, and what's the other one?
Knives Out.
Yes, that Knives Out especially, I feel like was a very complex mystery, and it still, like, commanded my attention throughout the whole film. I was like, oh my god, this is so hard to figure out, but I'm, like, invested anyway.
Yeah, I feel like like, not only is it a super entertaining movie, but the mystery a part of it is just so airtight. Like, it's like a twist that it's like, if you're really paying attention, like, I feel like you might be able to figure it out, but it also, like, allows, like you maybe you didn't see it coming, and it's this big shock value. Knives Out is, like, literally one of my favorite movies. I love it so much.
Fun fact about Knives Out, I have the same birthday as the guy who played the old man that got murdered.
No way!
Yeah.
Is Harlan? Oh my god.
Yes, that's his name.
That is a really great fact. I love it.
It's also the day that Donald Trump got elected. I won't get into politics, but I wasn't happy.
Yeah, that's fair. That's totally fair. So Knives Out, Glass Onion, and then you said you've seen Murder on the Orient Express, Death on the Nile. I feel like there's almost sort of this, like, I call it, like, a renaissance of murder mysteries lately. Just because, like, all these films that we've mentioned have all come out really recently.
Yeah.
And then there's also, I don't know if you saw See How They Run. So See How They Run came out this past year, and it had Saoirse Ronan and Sam Rockwell. And it was, like, also kind of similar to Clue, where it was sort of, like, poking fun at itself. It was a very, like, self-aware murder mystery.
Oh, yeah.
It was like a comedy, like a mystery comedy. I wouldn't say it's, like, the greatest film of all time, but I just love a murder mystery, so I thought it was fantastic.
See, that is kind of a thought I had with Death on the Nile, is that that movie was taking itself much too seriously.
Oh,
and that contributed to part of the reason that I did not care for it.
Ooh, yeah, let's get into that.
I'm definitely somebody who prefers a sprinkle of comedy.
Yeah.
And even if the film doesn't have that much comedy, if it's self-aware. I feel like that's a huge selling point for me.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I feel like this film, A Haunting in Venice, like, had its moments where it was, like, it kind of, like, it knew what it was doing, and it was, like, a part of that genre. And then you also had Tina Fey, who just, like, added little comedic bits and quips here and there, and I feel like she brightened up the tone a little bit, if that makes sense. Is that what I'm trying to say? I think so.
And I will be honest, there were parts of the film that made me laugh a little bit that I don't think were supposed to be funny. Like, whenever it would show the ghosts, like, I don't know. Yeah. I found myself, I don't know if you heard me in the theater, but I was giggling a little bit.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
That's, like, totally fair. So, okay, let's take the Kenneth Branagh murder mystery. So we have Murder on the Orient Express came out in 2017, Death on the Nile, I believe 2022, and then this one. How would you rank those three?
Oh, yeah. Death on the Nile is definitely last.
Yeah.
And I will be fair and say that I do not remember a lot of the Orient Express.
Okay,
I saw it when it came out, and I was in, like, 7th grade, I think.
Yeah.
But as of what I'm thinking now, I think that's second, and nope, not Death on the Nile. Haunting in Venice would be number 1 for me.
I really agree with your list.
Oh, really?
I don't know if it's like recency bias or whatever, but I
Yeah.
literally, like I said, I just loved this movie a lot. Part of me is just like, I'm very excited for Halloween and fall.
Right. That definitely contributes to, I think, how we both feel about it.
Yeah, just like the spooky vibes were so good.
And for me, it was a different take on Halloween that you don't normally see. Like, I don't remember when the film was set.
I think because they were talking about World War II.
Yeah.
So I think maybe circa 1950s.
And, like, I don't know a lot about the history of Halloween, but I feel like things then were more new than they are now. Like,
Sure.
the tradition of wearing costumes or conducting a seance.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it felt like we were seeing new trends emerge for the time period that the movie was set in.
Yeah.
Especially because it was talking about how this stuff was brought from America to Italy.
Oh, right. Yeah, I think that would be a really interesting kind of like micro research project would be like the history of like Halloween and like how those traditions started. But I think you're right. I think the film does speak to that a little bit. I was trying to look and see if I can get a timeline for the film, but I'm guessing like circa the 50s.
And going on the topic of Halloween, the costuming was just incredible.
Yeah,
Compared with the cinematography, like with like the dim lights and those masks, like
the masks were very cool.
Yeah. I was very impressed, and again, contributes to why it's so fun to watch it around this time of year.
Mm-hmm. I think this might be one of those films that I might put on once a year around this time.
Yeah. We all have those.
Yeah. What kind of films do you like to watch in the fall?
Oh, I binge all the Scream movies.
Nice.
I'm not somebody who normally likes horror movies, but horror comedies, again, I love comedies, so anything like that, like Megan, Happy Death Day, oh, love those.
Megan was fun.
Yeah.
I wrote a review for it in the window, and you can go read it if you want.
Oh, you know I will.
I love it. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about this genre. How do you think we can define this genre? So we talked a little bit about like the films that we've seen. What do you think are common elements that we might see across these?
Well, there's definitely finding out the mystery, gathering clues, being like, oh, whispering to your friend, I think it's this person.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite parts is like trying to figure out as a viewer. That's so much fun.
Yeah, like whenever I go to one of those movies, I find myself whispering to my mom, because that's normally who I go with, and be like, no, I think it's this person, and then I can brag about it at the end, be like, I was right.
That's really cute. I love it. Like the most satisfying moment in these murder mysteries is like when the detective like gathers everybody around and he's like, all right, this is how it happened.
Yes.
It's like, it's such a satisfying conclusion, and it's so fun to see like all of those pieces come together.
And we see that in all of these three movies.
Yeah.
Especially like I noticed that, or does that happen in Knives Out and Glass Onion too?
Yes. Yes. In Knives Out, Benoit Blanc like brings everybody in front of like the knife, or it's just actually Marta and Ransom, so Ana de Armas and Chris Evans' character, and he like unravels it and like proves that like Chris Evans did it all. Sorry, spoilers for Knives Out.
This is unrelated, but would you like to hear my impression of Benoit Blanc singing Bejeweled?
Yes.
Best believe I'm still bejeweled. When I walk in a room, I'll make the whole place shimmer.
I literally love Benoit Blanc so much. Here's the thing. I have written like several papers about this movie because typically one of like the tropes in a murder mystery is having sort of this acclaimed detective, right? And a lot of times they're like a gentleman detective. They're English, like Sherlock is a English detective, or Hercule Poirot, who is French Belgium. He's got a real thick accent, you know.
Yeah.
they're usually European detectives.
Yeah.
But Knives Out, he's like a southern gentleman detective. And it just like, he's got this like drawl that's just, Chris Evans calls it like a Kentucky Fried Leghorn drawl. And I think it's so funny.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, once again, sort of like acknowledging that trope and either kind of like poking fun at it or like embracing it at the same time.
Another thing, though, that I just thought of is that they're also commonly men.
Yeah. I wonder... I really am trying to think of, like, a film that has, like, a woman detective.
The only thing I can think of is the Nancy Drew film with Sophia Lillis.
Yeah, Nancy Drew is kind of, like, I feel like the prominent woman's detective. Or, Murder, She Wrote? With Angela Lansbury.
Yes. Oh, the way my mom listens to that religiously, like,
yeah?
just from the bedroom next door, I'll hear the voice of Angela Lansbury.
Yeah. So I guess there are some examples, but I feel like it's definitely way fewer than the man gentleman detective.
Yeah, so, I mean, I didn't even think of that until right now. Like, there's definitely some embedded patriarchal elements to this genre. Like, men are the ones that are solving all this, not the women.
Or, like, I feel like a lot of times if there is a woman involved, like, so they're sort of the sidekick. Like, in this movie, we have Tina Fey, who's sort of, like, his sidekick, like, accomplice. No, not accomplice. Sort of his sidekick through this. And then in the movie I mentioned earlier, See How They Run, Saoirse Ronan is sort of the helper.
Oh, okay.
But it's still not them, like, leading the case.
Well, then it's interesting to point out that these books are written by a female, but it's still a male detective.
That is a really interesting point, because I would argue that, like, Agatha Christie is, like, the name in murder mystery fiction. Well, I guess you'll have to direct a murder mystery movie with a woman detective.
I would love to do that.
I absolutely love it. Okay. Any other things that we want to do to try and define this genre? What other elements might we see? I feel like one of them is a lot of these films will have large ensemble casts, but like in Murder on the Orient Express, you know, you had Leslie Odom, Josh Gad, Johnny Depp was in it. Yeah, Death on the Nile had a bunch of famous faces too. Knives Out, you know, has Chris Evans, Ana de Armas, Jamie Lee Curtis, like I mentioned earlier. Daniel Craig. But I feel like what's interesting is that this genre, I feel like, or this film, doesn't have quite as much star power as like even previous Kenneth Branagh murder mysteries or like other films in the genre. Do you think that like takes away from the film or sort of maybe adds to it? What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. I currently am taking an indie film class, and one of the things we talk about is that indie films typically don't have as much star power as the bigger name films. And personally, I like it because I like seeing somebody that I haven't seen before.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think it depends on what your preference is, if it takes away or adds to the film, but I don't know. I like it.
Yeah, because I think there's something to be said where it's like you go into a film not having all of these like preconceived ideas of like who these characters are. Like you might see like, you know, if you see like Leonardo DiCaprio in a movie, you might think of like him as like a certain type of character and like expect those characteristics in this film. And if he like deviates from that, then it might be like, oh, this was kind of a weird choice for him. Whereas if I was like an unknown, you know, somebody that's either been discovered or just like just an unknown actor, like you wouldn't have those like preconceived ideas and it wouldn't like affect your interpretation of the acting in the film as much.
Definitely. Like, and even though there's less of that in this film, like with Tina Fey,
I
think funny teacher from Mean Girls.
Yeah, that is a really good point. I did want to talk about Tina Fey because I think she was such an interesting choice. I feel like this movie wasn't marketed a whole ton. I didn't see a ton of ads for it, and I feel like that could be in part due to the writer's strike.
Yeah.
And the like writers and actors strike right now. But when I saw her on screen, I was like, oh, that's an interesting choice.
Mm-hmm.
Because it, like, at first seemed like sort of a serious role, but then I feel like she did add this level of humor that I think really helped add those comedic elements to the film.
Yeah, that's
like you were
exactly
saying.
how I felt.
Yeah. Do you think she was a good pick for this?
I think so. I think she's a great comic.
Yeah.
And I'll say it. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I love comic relief, and in this movie, she was my comic relief. Aside from serious moments that I ended up giggling at.
I love it. Yeah. I was trying to think of like some of like the recent films she's been in. Because like I said, I was really baffled. I was like, this feels like kind of more of a serious role for her. Like, not something I would have thought. But then I was looking at some of the recent projects she's worked on. And she was on, have you heard of the show Only Murders in the Building?
Yes, I have.
Have you seen any of it?
No, but I want to.
If you love, like, a mystery comedy, it's perfect.
Oh.
It's literally so funny.
Good to know.
And it's a murder mystery. It's a TV show, so it's, like, episodic, but...
Yeah.
And in the first season, Tina Fey is a big character.
Okay.
And then she also was in another, it's called Mapleworth Murders, where that was a TV show that she appeared in an episode. So I was like, oh, maybe she does have sort of like she's a fan of the whodunit murder mystery. And she likes showing up in those kind of projects. So then I was like, oh, maybe she was a better pick than I thought. Because I did really like her in the movie. I just thought it was kind of surprising at first. Any other thoughts on that? On Tina Fey specifically?
Yeah, no, I thought she was a good choice. We don't normally see her in more serious roles, and I thought that she pulled off, like, the serious side of the role.
Yeah, no. I definitely agree. And it speaks to, like, your point earlier, like, when it's a known actor, like, we have all these preconceived ideas about it. And it kind of might change our interpretation of it. But I think you're right. I think she did do really well. I liked it a lot. The other actress that I thought was very notable was Michelle Yeoh.
Yeah.
As the medium. She just came off of a bunch of hype with Everything Everywhere All at Once. Did you see that movie?
Oh, yeah.
Nice. It was
Love
so good.
that movie.
It was so good. So she just came off of the hype of that. Like, she got the Oscar for it, and I feel like she's been landing a lot of projects lately. She's been showing up in everything. So, like, really good for her. What did you think of her performance?
I really enjoyed her performance. I thought she was very well suited to the character. She was also kind of funny at moments. Like, her character was more serious, but, like, there were a few things she said that made me chuckle.
Yeah. I think her character did have a level of humor to it, especially since, so in the film, she was a medium. So she claimed that she could speak with the supernatural. She could speak with spirits and ghosts and things. And Kenneth Branagh, or Hercule Poirot, the detective here, was trying to find a way to see through it. So just seeing her level of realistic artifice was kind of comical at times. I really liked it.
I do wish we got to see more of her performance.
As do I.
Yeah.
I think this is a good transition into our spoiler territory now. So everything at this point we've tried to keep relatively spoiler free. But now we're going to dive into spoiler territory. So if you haven't seen the film and you want to, I would recommend go doing it now and then coming back to this episode so you can hear our thoughts on the really, really fun plot twists and turns. So let's start off. What are your spoiler thoughts of the film?
I was really sad that she got killed off first.
I know. I feel like that was so sad because, like, Michelle Yeoh is so good.
She's so talented. And in Death on the Nile, my favorite character also got killed off first.
No.
It was the woman who played Wonder Woman.
Oh, Gal Gadot.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so tragic.
I know. But for the time we got to see Michelle Yeoh in this film, I thought she did a great job.
She really did. Yeah.
Again, though, when she got... possessed isn't the word. Like, when the spirit came into her and she was, like, spinning around and screaming out, that did make me laugh.
Yeah, I think that was one of those moments where it wasn't maybe supposed to, but, like, it was kind of funny.
Yeah, but I also feel like it was so ridiculous that could the film be taking itself seriously in that moment? That's a question I have.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. I feel like these movies are, like, a little bit more serious whodunits, murder mysteries.
Right. Compared to, like...
Clue or Knives Out.
Yeah.
Or, those type of films. Those are more, like, postmodern, and they, like, are really self-aware of where they are and where they are in this genre. And, like, poke fun at that, like we've been talking about. I think these movies do take themselves a little bit more seriously, which I think is, like, has its ups and downs, I guess. I do love the genre so much, so I can appreciate just, like, a fully, like, deep dive, like, murder mystery, like, entry into this.
Mm-hmm.
Because then I can think about the tropes more and think about how they've evolved and changed over time. But what do you think? Do you think it took itself too seriously?
I think it did a better job at not taking itself seriously than Death on the Nile.
Sure.
And like I said, I don't remember a lot of the Orient Express.
Sure.
But I remember that one being pretty serious and me actually enjoying it.
Yeah.
A good amount.
Okay. Yeah.
So I guess it just also depends on personal preference and how good is the film.
Right, yeah. Because I feel like, and I mean, Death on the Nile must have been in part a COVID production, I would think.
Oh.
So aspects of it could have been rushed or things had to be changed.
Oh, it had to be rushed.
Yeah.
Because it was, I did not enjoy that movie.
Yeah, it really wasn't my favorite. Not a strong Brana film.
If this is any indication, I saw it with my aunt, and she gave it half a star on Letterboxd, which I think is a little bit, like...
Okay, a little harsh.
Yeah, harsh is the word I was looking for, but it wasn't. It wasn't.
No.
Don't watch that movie.
We do not recommend it here at the pod. Okay, yeah, so this film, definitely a step up. I love it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Tell me your thoughts on, like, the mystery itself, like, and how it got solved. What did you think of the twist? What do you think of, like, who did it? Who done it?
I thought there should have been more red herrings.
Okay. Speak on that, yeah.
I liked the Tina Fey red herring.
Yep.
But I don't know.
Give a little context. What happened with Tina Fey?
So, what's the main detective's name?
Poirot.
Poirot. He had this whole monologue about how he suspected that Tina Fey was the killer. Mm-hmm. And then that ended up not being true. Mm-hmm.
But I will also say that, like, in the film, like, they did, like, as Poirot is going through it and explaining, like, why and how he thinks Tina Fey did it, like, you see, like, black and white footage of, like, that happening, which is, like, oh, like, maybe this, like, is really how it happened. So it kind of, like, yeah, like, throws you off a little bit.
And in the other films of this...
Kenneth Branagh.
Branagh, yeah. We see that happen. And I feel like there were more moments like those in those other films. Sure. And I enjoy a good red herring.
Yeah, I do too, because it, like, gets you second guessing and, like, makes the reveal, like, way more worth it.
Yeah.
I will be honest, and maybe this is a silly take of mine, but there was a moment when I really thought the parrot did it.
The parrot?
Yeah, because I was like, that might be some, like, campy thing that Agatha Christie would have done. I don't know, because I haven't read the book it's based on. I would like to now, but,
yeah,
like, because he was, like, hearing voices, and I was like, parrots could talk, but so maybe, like, the parrot is, like, I don't know. I was, like, really convinced for, like, a whole, like, second that I was like, the parrot was the one.
Honestly, like, that's very interesting to me. I don't think it's silly. I think that is something that definitely could have happened.
I could see, like, some, like, cheesy, like, detective fiction, like, book, like, doing that.
Yeah.
It was like, this is the last thing you would have expected, but, like, that's what happened.
Because there were, many shots of this parrot.
Yeah.
And it was very sinister.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. No, like, let's not rule anything out here.
And, like, I feel like whenever he, like, was, like, thinking about, like, he was, like, making a discovery or, like, looking at a clue, like, you saw a shot of the parrot, so I was like,
oh,
wait a minute, are they trying to tell me something?
You guys, it should have been the parrot.
Maybe it should have been. Let's talk a little bit about what did actually happen.
Yeah.
Because what did actually happen was that there was a daughter in this household who died, and supposedly what people are led to believe is that it was the spirits. It was the children of this big house that had their spirits had killed her. They wanted revenge, whatever. But Hugh Poirot is smarter than that, and he's like, ghosts are real, couldn't have happened. And after the course of the film, it's revealed that her mother was slowly poisoning her with poisoned honey that she made to keep her sick. And the daughter's caretaker, was like the housekeeper,
Yeah.
accidentally gave her too much honey because she didn't know it was poisoned, and then she died from the poisoned honey. Which, let me tell you, that's like one of my favorite tropes, is like the slowly poisoning them. It happened in one of Hitchcock's movies. I think it was Notorious. Other film majors out there, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was Notorious. And I just think that is such a cool mode of murder.
Yeah, definitely. It adds to the suspense, I think, because you have a longer time to drag it out. And
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, literally so good. I don't know. I just really liked it a lot. There was like so many. They had motives for like almost all of the other characters in the film.
Yes.
Because, you know, like, it's the classic murder mystery. It's like they're all like locked in this house, this big, spooky, like, house where a bunch of children had died in, and like it had all of this history and legends.
I was waiting for Poirot to lock them in. I was like, when's he gonna do it?
I mean, he kind of did. In the beginning, he's like, no one can leave. And there were people like trying to get out. But it was like the storm was also locking them in.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So they couldn't leave, and it was like, he like interviewed them all one by one, and it was like he found motives for all of them.
Rain, like thunderstorm, another trope for this genre.
True, so true. It just adds to like the spooky vibe.
Yeah.
I love it so freaking much.
Yeah, also what they did with the water.
Okay.
Like I thought like all those shots of like the water in the basement, like showing like the storm outside, and then like when we were in spoiler territory, so when like the daughter was in the water and then the mom fell into the water, like I don't know, I thought those shots were really cool.
Oh yeah, at the end. Are you talking like at the end?
Yeah.
When the mom dies? Yeah.
Yeah.
That was so good. You're so right. So, okay. I'm going to cue listener in on something. Basically, it was sort of like Hercule Poirot was sort of like trying to debunk this like sort of ghost legend and like prove that like it wasn't actually the deceased children that were causing all of these issues in the house, and he found like logical explanations for everything. But then there's like some moments at the end where it's like, maybe ghosts are real. So like, what's your take? Do you think like he's like, no, logic prevails, like there's a logical explanation for this, or do you think at the end he sort of became a bit of a believer in the supernatural?
Yeah, it's hard to say, because wasn't there also a moment where he was like kind of poisoned or drugged?
Yeah, that was like one of the things, because during the movie he kept hearing voices.
Yeah.
So then I was like, ghosts have to be real. Like, that's the only explanation. But it's revealed sort of in the big unveiling of like him like unraveling the mystery, that he was given tea that had this poisoned honey, which caused his brain to be like more manipulated, I guess, and the suggestiveness of all of these legends and lore caused his brain to make him hear things. That was the explanation that was given.
Yeah. I do though think that at the end, like when he sees the daughter and like she pushes her mom into the water, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
She like pulls her.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
like I feel like he wants to say he doesn't believe in ghosts and wants to be stubborn about it, and is like, no, I don't, even though I like literally saw this woman get pushed into the water by her daughter.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So good.
It was good.
Yeah, I think, like, he did become a bit of a believer at the end, and that's what, like, Tina Fey's character, which we keep calling her Tina Fey. Her character has a name.
Yeah. See, that's, another thing with those star-studded actors and actresses is you often refer to them by, like, their real name instead of their characters. Like, when I watch The Office, or, like, when I see an actor from The Office, I'm like, oh my god, it's Jim Halpert.
Yeah.
It's Michael Scott.
That's really funny. Yeah, because that's, like, what you know them from.
Yeah.
Do we have any other spoiler territory thoughts on the film, or, like, just other general comments, other thoughts that we didn't get to talk about yet?
I'm interested to see what you think. Do you think that the mother being the murderer, how do you feel about that?
I feel like the mother being the murderer at the end, like, part of me thinks it's, like, a little cliche, but I, like, just fall for I fall for the cliches sometimes. And it was, like, it was a twist. And if my mom was watching, she would have seen right through it, because my mom can always predict the film.
So
I don't
can
know how she
mine.
does it. I literally
It's like
don't know.
a motherly thing.
It must be a superpower they have. Because I didn't see it come in. I was like, oh my gosh, it was the mom.
Yeah.
So I thought it was really cool, but I feel like that could be seen as, like, a cliche, like that kind of a twist.
Mm-hmm.
But I still like it. I think it was fun.
Yeah, I liked it too. It was something that I guessed, but it wasn't like,
Okay.
I didn't have one sole guess.
Sure.
But I don't know.
Yeah.
It made me go, whoa.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like I kind of wish they would have gone, like, more into, like, the psychology of it, because I was like, that's a real twisted thing to do, to, like, keep your kid sick so she won't get married.
Yes.
Because I think that it's so, like, that's spooky, that's scary, that's interesting. But, like, I understand why they didn't go into it, because it was the big twist. That was the reveal at the end.
It kind of speaks to how crazy people are.
Yeah.
So how crazy some people can be.
Yeah.
They'll protect their kids by any means necessary, even if it means killing somebody or killing their kid.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I can't have you, nobody can.
Yeah. Oh, but I also just think it's so good.
Yeah.
It gives me goosebumps.
Yeah, I know. I don't think it's necessarily bad.
Sure.
Honestly, I like it when these kinds of movies do explore tropes, because it's another topic for my essays.
Yeah. I need good fuel for my papers. I got a lot of papers to write. Okay. Any other concluding thoughts?
No? I think I've said my piece.
Okay. Well, Lucy, thank you so much again for coming on the show.
Of course.
Where can people find you? Is there anything you'd like to plug?
Well, I suppose I'll plug my YouTube channel. It's pronounced Lucy, but spelled LOOSEYLEWSY.
Oh, okay. That's kind of fun. I love it. So what kind of things do you post on your YouTube channel?
Well, I have been vlogging since I was in 6th grade.
No way.
Yeah, so kind of have an embarrassing chronicle of my life so far on the internet for everyone to see. But recently, I have started making some stuff for my film classes.
Yeah.
So I do some, like, video essay film review stuff now. If you're interested in that, you can check it out.
I love it. I also heard you mention Letterboxd earlier. Do you have a Letterboxd?
Oh, I sure do.
Yes.
It's, my username is Lucy Severson.
Perfect.
Spelled LUCYSEVERSON. I forget how to spell my own last name for a second there.
I get like that too. I totally get it.
But my bio is movie theater employee with hot takes.
Ooh, that's good.
So I have a lot of hot takes on there.
Nice. I love it. She also works at the Winona 7, so movies are her passion.
Yep.
Awesome. Thanks so much for that. You can, like I said, my name is Cassie. You can find me on Letterboxd at Cassidy_Lynn. You can also read my work in the Winonan, where I write weekly film reviews, and Lucy often provides an illustration for those reviews. My latest one is Asteroid City, and she made the cutest illustration for it. I'm so excited for you guys to see it. You can also read some of my work over on the website Film Obsessive, where I do like a little bit more in-depth reviews. They're a little bit longer than the ones I do for the Winonan, as well as some longer form analysis pieces. I actually wrote an article about the whodunit genre and more like focusing in on the movie Knives Out. I really just like take every opportunity to talk about Knives Out because it's literally my favorite movie. I think it's so good. I've done so many projects. And you can also tune in every other week right here on the POV Winona blog to hear a critical conversation about the latest film releases. Episodes are released every other Friday at noon. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of Real Film Talk. Bye!